that song. The artist who wrote that song is actually only 22 years old, and she, you know, Jean, you were talking about God using all these young people. He's using these young people. So we get the honor and the privilege of having a question and answer time with Olivia and her mom, Stacy. So if you ladies want to come on up, we do have some questions to ask you. Thank you, ladies, for contributing these. So I think I'm going to start with you, Olivia. So let me introduce your mom first. So this is Stacy, Olivia's mom, from what part of Indiana?
From Little Napanee, the Amish town close to South Bend, Indiana.
Okay, so
Right by the
border of
Michigan.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know Indiana geography very well. All right, this question's for Olivia. How do you remain in today when there's an abundance on the calendar to prepare for?
Well, do remember these are all cups, so it won't be as wise as other things I have said. But one thing that comes to my mind, I also actually want Mom to speak into this too, but there's something that's helped me is even just doing like a thought dump of like what you have coming up on the calendar, and I don't always like plan my life out like directly, but when I'm overwhelmed, it helps me to like put things in a slot where I actually like can kind of see how much time things are gonna take, plan for it, and then as much as I can, I try to live in what I need to do today, and then leave tomorrow for tomorrow, and know that there is a time that is kind of scheduled for that. I do the same thing in like my business too, but even in like day-to-day life, that can be helpful. But also, something my mom has really taught me, and much to her disgrace, because I am one who fills my calendar like to the brim, which had to change actually when I really got into dealing with health struggles. And all of a sudden, these things that we used to argue about, I was like, oh, maybe my mom was really onto something. But she would always talk about living with margin in your life and just having like space in your calendar, which I think has helped a lot in chronic pain. So like some things you can do preventatively, which is great.
Well, yeah, the kids always give me a little hard time because my mantra is kind of having margin. Because I think when there's white space, a lot of good things happen in that white space. And so this used to be something we sort of struggled with when Olivia was in her health crisis, the more crisis mode. She was kind of a go-getter, and I would be trying to talk her into pulling back a little bit. But I think we kind of got a good rhythm. You know, at some point she was adult, this is some thoughts on this, but you do it as you wish, but here's some thoughts. But I think it just, in all of our lives, whether we're in pain, whether we're in a time of trial, or just in life, just a lot of good things happen in that white space in our relationships, and even just contribute to a peaceful soul. Not that we don't want to be busy about the Lord's work, but just keeping that in mind that our Jesus is the Jesus who rested. So making room for that.
Well, even like I remember in my sophomore year, I think, of college, I had it was a very rough stretch, and then I came back from Christmas break, which I'll actually share a little bit more about that in my last session. But when I came back, I remember being so overwhelmed by my class load, and I was a good student, so I didn't usually get overwhelmed with that. And it was the first week, and I just remember calling my parents and bawling, and they were like, "You need to drop a class," and I was like, "Me? I'm not sure this. No, why would I do that?" And then, but it was so wise, and I did, and I just had 12 credits that semester, and it was why am I trying to be a hero and everything? Who cares if I drop a class? No one actually, I can still graduate, it will be fine. And just seeing some of that wisdom of, just practical things you can do.
Thank you. All right, any suggestions for couples facing infertility?
We're thinking.
You
Right.
want
Do
to
you?
on that?
Yeah,
Just come back.
just 'cause I haven't gone through that, but you have with a child. Yeah.
You want to think on it, Stacy, or? Okay. I told you I wouldn't put you on the spot too much, but I did, didn't I? I do lots of things that I say I'm not going to do, don't I, Jean? But Jean loves me, and she knows it. Here's an easier one. Are there any diet tips that have helped you?
Yeah, we'll do it slowly. Like, I think having a marathon mindset rather than a sprint mindset is helpful if you have to diet, because it is a big, like, food touches everything. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can handle this, but like socially this is very crippling at times. And so I think at home you learn like one thing at a time that you change, and like just to not always strive for perfection right away, but just to do what you can and change like little things at a time. And in some ways it's, once you kind of start shifting that mindset, learning how to read labels or different things, it's not as overwhelming as you might think. But I remember whenever my diet would have to change, like the first week when I learned it, it was just like a gut punch of like, oh my word. I'd look at the pantry and I was like, how am I going to do this? But if you kind of slow down and just do it over time, that helps. And you walk through a lot of this too. I don't know.
The encouragement is that these diets, even though they are very overwhelming when a doctor says to you, like I remember your first diet, a natural said, you should be eating gluten-free, but don't buy anything gluten-free. Because we have to make it from, almond flour. It was just that gluten-free things have 25 ingredients to make up for the gluten. So that was a whole new concept for us. So we went home overwhelmed. But sometimes even just sitting after those appointments and doing nothing for a few days, it's very helpful. But then realizing that at some point you will learn how to make foods that you actually enjoy, because I don't think that we really feel super deprived that we follow a similar diet. And we like it. We really like it. Now, if we're at a pizza party and we're eating our second-rate pizza, there's time for that. But for the most part, it's enjoyable. And even just having a few go-to recipes, and it just doesn't have to be a ton, but you just know those are comfort foods for us, they work. It works, just one bit at a time. And we live in a very great time, so there's a lot of helps for us. So don't be overwhelmed if you get put on a crazy diet, just one little bit at a time. It's not as hard as it seems at first.
So are you gluten sure what your diet is right now? Gluten-free, dairy-free?
Yeah. So I'm like consistently over the last, since high school basically, end of high school, I've been gluten-free and dairy-free. And then I've gone through different times where I've had to make that more intense or not. So recently I did some food allergy testing, and I shoot to do that stuff when I cook for myself, or like maybe like 80-90% of the time. But that extra little margin allows me to come to things and not be as careful. But there's a bunch of weird stuff that I watch now too, which is ask Jack if you want the real answer.
Here's a question Jack could maybe chime in on. What are the sweetest surprises and most challenging obstacles of being newly married?
Well, it's fun. I don't know that that's a surprise, but it's a relief. Yeah, it's great. I don't know that I've been like crazy surprised by anything. One thing maybe that is, I don't know, like there's a very practical side to marriage. We were just talking about this on our drive over, like that your spouse is also the person that you plan your finances with, plan your schedule with, and like they're your best friend, but also they're like your parent, your accountant, your assistant. It's like, man, we get to date night, you know? But yeah, I don't know. I think that's been one of them. And then it's just also been cool to see like just getting to do life together and like, you know, when you're walking out relationships God's way, there's a big change in marriage where it's like, oh, no more goodbyes, no more boundaries, and like all of that has been fun to just be like, oh, this is a lot more carefree now, and that's been fun. So.
Jack, did you want to say?
She got it on the nail.
Yeah. Okay, this one is a little more serious. How did you understand that God could use your pain for His glory? And then part 2, how did you overcome the feeling of being forgotten by God?
That's good. The when part, I don't know that there was an exact moment that I felt like God could use my pain for His glory. But I think I started seeing it probably in the earliest stages through writing. I had written a couple of blog posts that I ended up publishing through a ministry, Revive Our Hearts, like Nancy Lee DeMoss, World Move, if you know her. So it was like their young adults ministry. But I think that what was cool to me was like from my couch, I was connecting with people across the world who were like responding and relating. And that was striking to me because kind of like this question talks about like the feeling of being alone or forgotten was very real, and to realize, oh, I feel like super alone, but my friend in South Africa is feeling the same way. Like, and now we know each other because of this thing. That was really cool. And so I think that just throughout like the time of like writing and then just speaking to other people, being more vulnerable about it, was where I would see how God was already building bridges to other people. But I also think that I had to give up my desire to feel understood to actually build those bridges, because often when you start sharing your story, you open yourself up to being misunderstood, and that was hard for me at first, of like over-explaining and trying to make sure everyone just knew exactly where I was coming from, and I kind of had to give that up and to realize God's going to use this how He's going to use it, and it's okay. And I think that was a freeing realization for me. And the feeling of being forgotten, I just remember a specific moment. I mean, this is very personal, but I literally prayed to God, "Did you forget me?" Like, I prayed those words, and I opened my Bible up to where He says, "Can a woman forget her nursing child? Like, I can't forget, you know, I encourage you in my palms of my hands. They won't forget you, neither will I forget you." And that moment, like, is just something I've gone back to again and again. And if I can't tell you if that was the first time I asked God about that, but I think something that I've seen in pain is you have those moments that God gives you that you can go back to. And if you don't have those moments yet, then keep seeking them, because He's real and He promises to be found when we seek Him. So,
We have 2 more questions. Stacy, this is a question for you. What should we as mothers avoid as we parent our adult children?
Well, I'll start with what we shouldn't do, because that's my specialty. I remember a time that Olivia came home from being 4 years at college, and she had moved back home for a little while. And she'd be downstairs on a Sunday morning, and I'm like, those shoes don't go with that. They don't work with that. She's like, "Mom, I've been dressing myself for 4 years. And we drew a line in the sand real fast. So it's one of the small things, yeah, like that. I think it's a balance. Like everyone always talks about how you should, you have, what did you tell me about in this book at lunch we talked about?
So keep the welcome mat out, but your mouth shut.
That's the book I'm reading right now.
Right. And there's also a balance in that, I think. I remember Dr. Dodson once talking about with your adult children, there's going to be times when you can't yank the steering wheel like you did when they were 6, go completely the other direction. But there's times when you can tweak it. A quarter, that's not a quarter, just a fraction, the wheel, just a fraction. And we would probably do that for a friend. So to not, to say less to our own children than we would say to a friend, I think there's a ditch there. And I think it's all about relationship, right? So when you're parenting your little children, you're working towards a day when you're relating to your adult children. We don't really parent our adult children, but having a relationship where they want to discuss things, and just open dialogue and avoiding the, a little bit of junky stuff like the shoes. But when they have things they want to talk about, that you're willing to talk about it. Not that you're trying to steer their life or go for a certain outcome, but it's a bit of dialogue. So that starts that relationship from when you're little.
I'm just going to add to that just a little bit, because in this book, I have learned that with your adult children, if there is a sin issue, that's when you definitely want to gently speak in. But if it's like shoes, or I do it with short skirts or whatever, I'm like, oh, I've learned to just kind of, but if there's a sin issue, that's what this book says, Okay. Do you have any thoughts on that tough question of the infertility, or what you've learned from your sons?
Yeah, and that was more of a miscarriage issue. So I don't want to speak to it a lot just because I feel like I'm not well versed on what I'm saying. But as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, it's a trial, right? It's a trial like all other trials when the Bible says we will not be ashamed when we wait for him. So just holding those kids up in prayer, our own journey, doing the wait well, knowing Romans 8:28 is so cliche, right? But it promises that for those who are following the Lord, all things work together for good. So wow, like what good is coming out of this? And you can't see it. Just holding to his promises with all you got, not giving up on him, because walking through those hard times without him would be, obviously so much worse. I mean, it's easy to people give up on him, but then you really do have a mess on your hands. So trusting him like you have all through your life. But those who the Lord and wait for him will not be ashamed. But I'm sorry, I'm sure people go to walk through this with their children and have a lot more to contribute to that. So.
Okay, one last one, and this is all we have time for, and it's just such a fun one. What is your favorite thing to do as mother and daughter?
I like it when they pay for vacation.
That was a hit, I just.
Those vacations are getting much more expensive. 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. Well, we wouldn't trade it for the world. So we do. We like to travel together. Very cliche. I mean, we're a coffee shop junkies just a bit. So we would, and she works a lot on the computer, and I store up enough stuff that I have to do on the computer for a day. And we go meet at a coffee shop because I'm getting used to not having her at home. So we used to kind of, share that in the morning, do our morning devotions, kind of tiptoe around each other, and that was fun. But I would say we love to have fun. I love the laughing. This is part, and I'm not a big part of how that gets generated because I'm a little more like, let's all stay on task. But with Ashlyn and Jack and Olivia, I mean, that's trio to, there's a lot of heaviness in life, but you can have a week, one night, and the next day, just the laughter around the table. We love to laugh together, so. Yeah, it's great.
That's wonderful. Thank you, ladies. Let's give them a I think Jenny has 4 prizes for the back, for the people in the back.